changing gears from Hunter x Hunter to Yu Hakusho. But long story short, with the Yu Hakusho live action coming up, we've decided to do a little bit of analysis on the cast, crew, and production studio in order to have like a more informed discussion about what's coming up. Because like, while I would say that maybe all of us are not exactly sure it's going to be great or anything, I do think that people have been either like overly negative, which has been a very common reaction, or overly positive by just being like, it could be good. It's just like, well, how about we actually talk about ways it could be good or bad based on the history of each of the people involved? And so each of us has done a little bit of research. Real quick, I'll just start out by saying that the supposed screenwriter who's credited in a bunch of news articles doesn't exist. I don't know why this is in a bunch of things, but I searched his name. It doesn't appear in any of the Japanese stories. I'm not sure who created this person. Maybe it did and I missed it. It's possible, but I think one person got a transliteration wrong once and everyone's been copying it.
Ooh, that's rough. I'm sure like the Japanese fans who are like reading English translations, they're like laughing. Like
Yeah, everyone's been crediting a guy named Tatsuro Mishima who doesn't show up, and I looked up what the kanji would be for this, and it doesn't turn up anything.
Ooh. Do you think it
Yeah.
may be someone else with a similar name?
Maybe, or it could be one of those things where someone, you know how like many kanji have multiple readings? It could be something where someone totally fucked up multiple characters.
Oh, geez. Oh, no. That sucks.
Yeah, so we will not be talking about the writer, the supposed real person Tatsuro Mishima.
But we are going to talk about starting with the cast for Yu Hakusho. So Hannah and I did some research, and starting off with Yusuke's actor Takumi Kitamura, and he is playing Yusuke. He's around like 24 years old, a Scorpio. He's born November 3rd. He is part of Stardust promotion. It's important, you know? You got to know the zodiac.
What is his blood type? If you don't have that, this is worthless.
Oh, I do not have that. That's my
God
bad.
damn it.
I'm thinking too westernized.
Yeah. Remember, this is a Japanese production. We got to think about his blood type.
He was scouted when he was in elementary school.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because I think it's. I always wondered how this goes about. Is it a talent show? Is it purely by looks? I know it's like a mix of both. Usually,
it's usually
a mix both,
of both. Yeah.
You're like, yo, you're good looking. Do you want to be an actor? So,
yeah,
that's sometimes how it works. So, no auditions, just vibes. Yeah, so he is an actor, model, singer, and voice actor. His start was as a singer, and he's actually the lead vocalist and guitarist of Dish, a pop rock band that's under this music collective through Stardust Promotion called Ebidan, or it stands for Ebibosu Gakuen Danshibu, or Ebiuso, sorry I'm butchering it, Gakuen Boys Club. It's basically all the company's male artists.
Is Gakuen high school? I forget.
I think so. But he started acting in 2008, and he was known for basically playing younger versions of popular actors like Shun Oguri, and now is starring in major leading roles himself. His filmography has a lot of romance dramas, and then has eventually branched out to other types of films. And a majority of them have been adaptations of a manga and novels. So the most prominent roles, I did films because that's what I can mostly find clips of. So his breakout role would be Let Me Eat Your Pancreas, where he played the unnamed main character. and it's
You should
a
probably explain that title because I know what it's about, but I think other people who don't will be incredibly puzzled.
It is not about cannibals, just to lay it out there. It is a romance drama based off a novel between a young girl who has a terminal pancreatic illness. I'm not sure if it's cancer or not. And then the boy who finds out about her illness that she's keeping a secret. And basically, they bond and they kind of live out like her last few days. It's a very sad and touching, much very much a tearjerker film. His character is very more restrained, introverted, and antisocial. Who eventually he learns to open up after he falls in love with the girl Sakura, who's terminally ill. And I thought it was pretty good. I definitely needed like to watch some puppy videos afterwards because it's a pretty sad movie. But overall, I think he did a good job. On the opposite spectrum, he has done comedy films like Tonkatsu DJ Agitoro. So his character basically, this is based off a shonen manga, and it's about a dull, not popular, unmotivated dude who whose family owns a tonkatsu restaurant, and he's kind of living day by day doing menial chores for it. Eventually, he'll own it one day. But when he
Damn.
ends up delivering a tonkatsu bento box to a nightclub, he discovers DJing and falls in love with it. But in order to pursue DJing, he has to also master being a tonkatsu chef. So he has the goal of becoming the tonkatsu DJ.
Can you explain the connection, or is it just to appease his parents while he's doing this?
Apparently he finds a lot of similarities between like the art of creating tonkatsu and DJing. I couldn't find the whole movie. I was just watching some clips, but
Wait, just checking. I forget. Is which one is the broth for ramen and which one is a cutlet?
it's a cutlet.
Okay, it's the cutlet one. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cutlet.
I always
Maybe
get
it's the shape.
tonkatsu and tonkatsu different, like confused.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I maybe it's the shape. They're both flat, vaguely circular objects.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I love it when I just put like fucking pork cutlets onto the wheels of steel.
That need time and love in order to create the best thing possible. So
You know what?
his
Why did I doubt this? It's the perfect comparison.
and I like this as more like a feel good comedy. His character is very like dorky and endearing. Um and the next role that I feel like is the one that really sealed the deal for I think be a great Yusuke is Tokyo Revengers. He plays the main character Takemichi Hanagaki, and it's an action sci-fi thriller based off a manga and anime. His character is basically like a unemployed um
I'm
26
noticing a
year old.
pattern.
Yeah, no jobs. He learns his ex-girlfriend has been killed, and suddenly he finds himself traveling back in time to middle school years. And in order to save his ex-girlfriend's life, he needs to rise to the top of the most brutal delinquent gang.
Wow, it's like
And
Erased plus Yu Hakusho.
It really is.
basically-
I watched like 5 episodes of the anime. It's basically that. So
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I watched this on Netflix, and I thought he did a great job because it's one of those roles where you had to be like both a loser, a cool guy, and also desperate and resolved to get something done.
Okay, so he will be a great Yusuke.
Yeah, so he will be a great Yusuke. Yeah, so I thought he was a good match. I think at first I was like, wow, he kind of has that more softer face that I thought like I couldn't imagine it. But the more he has a great versatility that I think he'll really suit the role.
A legitimate question, like in Tokyo Revengers, I assume he gets in some
Mhm.
fist fights. How does he seem as a martial arts performer? Or even just fistfight performer.
That one, I don't know. I'll have to relook at it again. I think he did decent enough, but probably not as much as like someone who's like trained.
Okay. He'll be like, it sounds like he'll be like really good for the part of Yusuke the actor. I'm worried about Yusuke the martial arts actor, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where at first when I found out like, oh, he's part of like a dance, it was like a music group, but I thought it would be a dance one because I feel like dancers tend to lean well into martial arts roles because it's that
Look at Jean-Claude Van
physicality
Damme.
aspect. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's a band, so I don't know.
Interesting.
There's no dancing. I don't know, channel that rock and roll aspect, but they're pop rock, so it's like the
This is
JoJo's
a
brothers.
shout out to Patrick who's not here, but it's a reverse Iori Yagami.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is Yusuke, actor.
So I'll do Kuwabara's. So I did Kuwabara's actor, who is Shuhei. How do you pronounce it with the E-I at the end? Shuhei Uesugi. He was born on May 18th, 1992, so same year, woo, in Tokyo, Japan.
Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, same year as
the anime.
Yu Hakusho. He is 185 centimeters. That is about roughly 6'3" or 6'2". And then
it's a good height to be Kuwabara.
Yeah, and then his blood type, which I didn't put in the notes, but I remember it, is blood type B, which makes sense. He's hot-headed. Blood type B types are very hot-headed people. So, but yeah, so interestingly enough, his characters, it's hard. He's mainly a support character. He's mainly had support roles, and the roles where he has more significance have been actually more serious, quieter, or easygoing roles. So I'll kind of dive into what I found.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like one he's most famous for is called 1 Week Friends. That he basically plays Hajime Kujo, who is a handsome, popular transfer student who confessed to the female main character back in middle school. And so his character is really calm and collected, a little like aloof, kind of like Yuki a bit from Fruit Basket. He knows he's popular, but he doesn't per se flaunt it. And then his next role, which I did watch some of the drama, it also made me kind of uncomfortable, which makes sense given the premise. Basically, it's called Sachiro no One Room, which basically is about a girl who is in middle school who's about to commit suicide, and she gets she gets actually kidnapped by a guy who wears a mask and has silver hair, and since her life is terrible, she ends up wanting to prolong her time with the guy in the mask, and he feels conflicted about it. So anyway,
I can see how this is a little bit conflicting.
Yes, so he does a good job in his role, and he plays like more of a stoic, almost gentle character who seems to have a lot of turmoil. Yeah, and then afterwards, um, I didn't get to find a clip of it, but he actually was in a movie, or I think it's either a movie or show, called Our 30-Minute Sessions. He was a drummer in this band, and he was in the movie with Yusuke's actor, Kitamura Takumi. So that was cool.
Are they both like mains in it?
Yusuke's actor is the main. Kuwabara's actor is just like a side support character. So it was hard for me to find clips of him to kind of
What year was this?
This one's 2020.
I wonder if they have good chemistry.
I wonder. We'll see.
I hope so.
I just couldn't find any clips. It's hard. Like I don't.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
We had like 2 weeks. Don't worry.
Yeah.
That sounds like I'm dissing you. For the record, we had 2 weeks on top of all of us having full-time jobs and like other interests and friends.
I did watch most of this one. There's a dorama or J-drama called Followers, and basically it's about two women, one way older, established in her career, and one younger woman who's trying to make it as an actress, and basically it shows two sides of their lives. And Shuhei plays Hiraku Noma, a popular YouTuber who like meets and falls in love with the younger female main character. His character is really cool, really easygoing, and everything. Like I would say, Kurama is like is a romantic, and this actor does the romance really well. So,
Oh.
which leads to the next one, which I think is on Viki. I think people should watch it. It's called One Night Morning. Basically, he plays Murata Ryoto, a guy who is reunited with a former high school classmate who he continues having feelings for, and his acting was really good in this. Um, it showed a lot of vulnerability and awkwardness, which I think there are a good amount of scenes with Kuwabara in that. So
Yeah.
I think that has potential. I don't know. We'll see. There is not a lot of roles that he had that is really loud and boisterous, but
Interesting.
we'll see.
He sounds like he'll be really good at playing the character Kuwabara tries to pretend he is.
Yes, I think so. But he's only had support roles, so maybe this is his time to shine.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
that often is a case with a lot of actors who are in support roles. Once they do have a main role, they tend to flourish. At least that's what I've noticed with other actors that I watched in other dramas and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I'm really curious to see because he sounds very promising for
mhm.
the sake of who Kuwabara wants to be and then is too dorky sometimes to be.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see whether they'll go with the take where hey, this guy stretches his somewhat comedic but sincere chops, or if they're gonna go a much more serious version of Kuwabara.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Random trivia. He has a YouTube channel called Shuhei Uesugi's Third Place, where he does vlogs. He talks about his favorite recommended items and DIY projects. And he also was in the 2021 version of Plastic Love music video. So,
Oh.
Really?
yeah, so that
Holy shit.
super hot guy, that's him.
If only Patrick was here.
And then he is also now he's a rapper in a hip hop group called Candy Town. I have not listened to their music.
Oh, yeah. Maybe this is where the goofy thing's coming from.
So he has a
That's
very hipster persona, which I know is not what people are thinking will work with Kuwabara, but maybe in the 2023 version, maybe it'll work out. I don't know. We'll see. I think I'm just kind of I like his face, so maybe that's why I'm biased. So
I'm curious, yeah.
anyways, and then well, I also did Kurama, who I think has his actor is pretty well known. Jun Shison. He was born on March 5th, 1995 in Tokyo, Japan. He is
A youngin'.
178. So there's discrepancies between if he's I I think he's 5'10", but he looks more like he's 5'8", 5'7". I don't know. Anyways, he's a blood type A. So he has a really long career. It was really hard to narrow down what roles, so I kind of wanted to do a mix of really contrasting to what I think could suit Kurama. So he was in Reisha, Resha Sentai, and I don't even know how to pronounce Choker. Basically, he was in one of the Sentai series, and
Okay, I'm looking at it and yeah, it's not one of those things of
Toger.
oh, maybe the person should know how to pronounce this. I'm looking at it, there's no way to know how to pronounce this. It's Eoqger, and I have 4 different guesses, and if you were to ask me which one's right, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, he plays Right Suzuki, who's the Red Ranger and the leader, and he's basically a peak shonen protagonist where he's an upbeat dude who acts before he thinks, has a big imagination and an even bigger appetite. So, and
Is this
then
the series where it looks like his haircut could have been used to play young Kurama?
yeah, a little bit, but actually no. He looks it's bad CGI and very cheesy. That's all I can
Hell
say.
yeah.
But and then his next role that I think is prominent and is Kimi wa Peto, or You're My Pet, which basically he plays Momo, a younger man who's a dance prodigy who ends up being taken in as a quote unquote pet by a career woman, Sumire. And so basically he plays this
Ooh.
it's like he plays this playful guy who like needs a house, and so this lady takes him in, and in exchange he gives her unlimited affection. So that's the exchange, whatever.
Is that what she gives him?
She gives him a house and food, and he gives
Mm.
her affection and love, and it's like it there's a 2003 version of Matsumoto Jun, who is a very famous Japanese actor, and what's his name? Jun Shison appeared in the 2017 version of this, and in my opinion, it does not compare. The 2003 version is still superior, but he wasn't bad. So I gave him some grace because there were some good parts he was in with the more serious parts. I think he's not good cute. I don't think he's good at playing cute. That's all I'm gonna say. So, and one thing though I thought was an interesting role, and I think because there are very many comments about Kurama looking very beautiful, almost like a girl, and Jun Shison actually played a transgender woman who moved from the countryside to the city and has like a fashion mail order company job, and her childhood friend comes and they reunite. She reunites with her childhood friend who doesn't know that she's transgender, and it kind of is like a slice of life. It I only watched a clip or two, but his acting's really good, really authentic. It's not like corny or playing it up, and from the reviews I read, it is a more honest portrayal. Like, it's more about her character and her growth versus like, oh my god, she's transgender. So I heard good things. And he is very stunning as a woman. He's beautiful. So there's that. So
Interesting, because when I saw him on the live action like Yu Hakusho casting, I was just like, what the, like, I think the wig really threw me off. I'm like, this doesn't look nearly pretty enough, but I feel that wig is to blame.
I think the editing for the poster is also very not flattering. I think he is a really good looking guy, and he plays androgynous pretty well, in my opinion, even though he's not my type. Like in terms of like
I didn't mean to say he was unattractive. I meant more like that he didn't look androgynous there. He looked more like just like a man wearing a shitty wig.
Yeah,
but I think the shitty wig is the real problem.
If you look up Life as a Girl and you type in like Jun Shison right after, you'll see like, oh wow, he's actually very, very beautiful. So
yeah, I did. Yeah, he looks good there. So I now believe.
Mm-hmm. And so in terms of fighting, he was in a very famous, like, I guess, franchise called High and Low. And this one's High and Low the Worst. It's a 2019 movie where he plays Sachio Ueda, the leader of a killer army of the Hosen Academy. He may look slender, but he has all the power, technique, and judgment, and he's rumored to be the most powerful fighter of the history of the Hosen Academy. So
Yo, is this Hiei just describing Kurama?
Yeah, sure. But he actually has a lot of action scenes where he's punching and kicking, and it looked good. It looked realistic. It wasn't like cheesy punching. It was like just full on brawl, which Kurama does not do. But I guess in general, I think he will have the physicality to make a fight scene look realistic, in my
Yo,
opinion.
I'm definitely hyped for that. I'm like hyped for God, is it Kurama versus Toya, where
Mm-hmm.
he like goes
Mm-hmm.
on the offensive and like actually does like some interesting melee combos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so,
excited for that one.
yeah. And then his last role, I chose this because it's so current and it's kind of up to date with his current acting. It is The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window, where he plays Kosuke Mikado, a bookstore clerk who's able to see ghosts since he was young, which terrifies him. And so, in his role, I thought it was really good. He plays scared, kind of introspective, and like hesitant pretty well. Super realistic, fearful looks and crying scenes, which I know isn't really Kurama, but I think it shows a depth of acting. So in general, and there's some other roles that he's done that I haven't included that are more serious, like Junichi, which is like on Amazon Prime, where he basically each episode, this guy he's wandering and trying to figure out his life, and he spends time with like these different women, and they it's like an introspective series of reflecting on life and relationships and humanity. So,
Interesting.
yeah. Tidbits, he's in a actors group, which I think is very common in Asia, where actors are kind of like almost like not like a music group, but just like a collective. So this one's called D Boys. And he started off his acting debut in a stage musical, A Prince of Tennis, and he's the voice actor for the main character in the Netflix movie Bubble. And yeah, he hasn't been in another anime adaptation called The Way of the House Husband live action
Oh.
drama. He plays Masa, the friend.
Nice.
So, I think overall his acting in general is really good. I don't know how his acting as Kurama will be. At least from the clips I've seen, it's kind of hard to gauge, like more of the cold, calculative type of character, but I think he will play kind of like the Suichi well, if that makes sense. Like, he'll play Suichi well, I think, and I think he'll play season 1 Kurama well, where it's like, the darkness of Kurama doesn't fully come out. He's more like, not pleasant, but I don't know, it's hard to describe. But like Kurama, I think he'll do
Before it gets
okay.
into his traumatic past.
Exactly. So,
Oh, I just thought of something. I like you were just talking about that. I'm wondering if they're gonna have a second actor play Yoko, and
oh.
whether they do or not, whether they'll have the same voice. Because in the English version, they probably wouldn't. In
Mm-hmm.
the Japanese version, they definitely would. So I'm
Ooh.
now wondering what they're gonna do.
I have no idea. His voice is not the deepest, so we'll see.
I think visually Kyoko Kurama look very different from regular Kurama, that it would make sense to have a different actor.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious to see, but sorry, I don't mean to fully distract. It honestly sounds like he has like a very varied career and that he definitely has the potential to grow into the role. The thing I'm worried about is because it's basically 2 roles in one, how you're going to get that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So there's that. And so, Sarah, you covered here, right?
Yep. So Hiei's actor is Kanata Hongo. He is also a actor, voice actor, and model. That's the same company as Yusuke's actor, Stardust Promotion. He had his start as a child actor, but his major breakthrough role was Prince of Tennis, where he played
Nice.
Ryoma Echizen. So he got his big break there. And eventually he also went on to do Nana 2. So the second movie, he played Shin. And
Ooh.
yeah, he played his a lot of his acting roles have been primarily like adaptations of different mangas and animes. Um and has like quite a variety in terms of character. So I just like named two, but he also played like Armin in the Attack on Titan live action.
All
He
right, that's
he has
not
played
good.
Envy in the Fullmetal Alchemist live action
Okay.
adaptation. I have not seen any of these. But yeah, he has a lot of. I think his lead roles would be like one called Tokyo Slaves, which is based off a novel. And then he also has done a lot of different voice acting. So like he's done voice actors roles for Gundam Build Fighters. Um, Drama wise, he's played like a mahjong prodigy in the drama Akagi, which is based off a manga of the same name.
I thought you were gonna
Um,
say mahjong again.
oh no. He's also done voice acting roles in Pokemon the movie I Choose You. He voiced Sorrel, and I think one that I actually did watch was he starred in a adventure game called Death Come True. Um, and I think I remember watching this randomly on YouTube. It's like one of those interactive film adventure games where they find clues about the truth about the protagonist's action, and he plays the main
Interactive film
character.
adventure games. Could you explain that more?
So it's like basically a movie you watch, but you can determine like the action of the characters. Like there's going to be points where it's choose your own adventure. Like, oh, there's a point
It's
where
like
a
Bandersnatch.
character, exactly like Bandersnatch. So
Yeah,
it's
they're
like,
pretty popular on Steam. So if you're
mm-hmm.
curious.
Yeah. So I think it's
Interesting.
becoming more popular for people who love the ideas of storytelling through games, but aren't quite or don't like to do the more like, I guess, mechanic of gameplay.
How is it? I'm assuming it's slightly less interactive than Until Dawn.
I think it's less it was less
Okay.
interactive if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I watched a playthrough on YouTube because I like to do that to randomly pass the time during work. But I don't really remember too much about his performance in it. He's one of the actors where I watch less of, so I can't really say whether he'd be a good fit for Hiei or not. I guess the one plus side is that he has at least a lot of experience. He's a more of an experienced actor and has played like a great variety of roles. Um, I don't think he'll at least be like he'll stand out in the sense that he's like a total rookie. It seems like all the actors that they chose have had a lot of experience underneath their belt, whether they're a lead or supporting character, which is good. But
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I don't know. Maybe
Like,
his role as Envy is what caught their eye. It's like Hiei, but more yandere.
oh God.
I think he's the only one whose like experience doesn't really sound super applicable to me. Not like that I think he's a bad actor, just maybe like the others I can see how each of them fits in to the role. His I'm more like, you seem like you're probably a good actor. You're making money, like you're making it as an actor. I don't know if you seem right for this.
Yeah, it kind of just seems like he has taken on so many different roles. It's hard to pinpoint what he'll bring to the table in terms of Hiei.
Interesting. Well, thanks for the research on the characters. We can talk a little bit more for the research done by the two cast members who aren't here right now. So Megan did some research into Netflix and their collaboration in the US versus Japan versus Korea. Long story short, she kind of said, I didn't really figure out anything.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that's stuff that people wouldn't really come out and say, but I'll read her notes beyond that because that was her initial intro. But she said, for Yu Hakusho specifically, Netflix content acquisition director is serving as executive producer, as they did for Alice in Borderlands, which, I mean, according to Sarah and Hannah, you guys both watched it, right?
Yeah.
So that was good. So hopefully that's good.
Yeah, I loved it.
And then the second point is a Netflix original is content that is produced, co-produced, or distributed by Netflix exclusively on the service. Netflix funds their original shows differently than other TV networks when they sign a project, providing money upfront and immediately ordering 2 seasons of most series. And that's all it says. I don't really know what point she was going for there.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, that's basically true. Like, let's say in Korea, um, it's all about investment. You know, Netflix will just invest in these series, giving them money upfront and allow the creators to work on it. And based on investment, if the investment isn't good, like there's not a high viewership, then they'll cancel it. So that's just how it kind of works. Versus like, sometimes like if it's through a network, like there's a contract, if it was done like ABC or like something like that, where yeah, like you ordered 5 seasons, these 5 seasons need to stay on for this amount of months before it can be removed. So mhm. That's kind of like, I guess, how it works with Netflix originals. So
Interesting.
mhm.
So Patrick did some research into the director, Sho Tsukikawa. He writes, seems to work on a ton of live action anime / manga adaptations, so that could be good or bad depending on what we find. But previously worked on Let Me Eat Your Pancreas, My
Oh.
Teacher, My Love, My Little Monster. Okay, is it My Teacher, My Love as one thing, or is My Teacher something, is My Love something, and is My Little Monster something? Or is it My Teacher, My
Oh
Love, My
no,
Little Monster?
my love, my little monster is like a shoujo, pretty sure.
Okay, so I'm guessing My
Oh.
Teacher, My Love is one thing.
Yes, I'm gonna look it up right now.
And then finally, and I'm not just going to do what Kurosaki-kun says.
So
I wonder why
literal.
not.
Well, it's interesting that the same director and then Yusuke actor starred as the main character in that film. So I wonder if
It's
it'll help to
mhm.
have like previous experience with each other, or if that's probably what helped the casting decision. Since
Seems that way.
It's super common, especially with Netflix properties, to use actors who've been in previous Netflix properties. And I mean that I'm gonna both in Korea, US, and I'm assuming Japan, because like for example, in the US, like Stranger Things My Hawk, she's in like now 2 different Netflix things. Or
Mm.
for example, in Korea, there's an actor Song Kang. He's in like 5 different Netflix properties, and now with Yusuke's actor, he's in like one other Netflix property. So
No, that's cool. If they have good
yeah,
chemistry, I'm happy to see that. But have you guys ever seen the movie The Raid?
yes,
yeah, I
Have
I
you seen
have.
the
have.
sequel?
Yes, it was
Yes.
bonkers.
I love those movies. The reason I bring it up is they make the unfortunate decision to cast one dude as 2 people in each of the different movies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that one
dude.
guy. I was like,
I won't say who he is, but in the second movie when he showed up, I'm like, we saw you die. We saw you die. Like there's no coming back from what happened to you. And he was just a different character. Yeah, anyways. But as for the ratings for those, apparently Let Me Eat Your Pancreas has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. My Teacher, My Love has a 6 out of 10. My Little Monster has a 5.9 out of 10. And I'm not just going to do what Kurosaki-kun says is 7.6 out of 10. So it seems overall their films are at least average to pretty decent. Did some dramas outside of the movies, but overall doesn't have a ton of credit to their name. So I'm curious. None of these seem like actiony, which makes me worry unless they're gonna have different directors for the seasons. Because like if they're like just restricting it to like the the 3 Spirit World Treasures arc and before, then I'm okay with this. But if it goes
yeah,
beyond that, it gets more and more murky.
Yeah,
I
I
wonder if
agree.
hopefully they'll have like a great fight coordinator and stunt coordinator, because like this is giving me like the same vibes as like with Shang-Chi, and how they chose like a director who is more known for his like family dramas. So it's honing on one aspect, and hopefully they'll have other creatives behind the scenes that will be more involved with like the martial arts side of things. At
That'd
least I
be
hope.
good.
Mhm.
Can I just say something about Shang-Chi that I don't think I'm ever gonna get another chance to say, just because it's something that I just think all the time.
Sure,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Did you guys ever watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing movie, right? Ang Lee. He made a superhero movie. It fucking sucked. I wish he had never made the Hulk movie and he just somehow had just stayed uninvolved with Marvel until Shang-Chi had come out and been the one to make Shang-Chi. Because it would have been way better.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyways, so for the research I did Robot Communications, aka the production studio for this. And like I found some interesting stuff out. I think I'm very interested to see some of their work, but not for the reasons you might think. So they were founded in 1986 in Tokyo as a visual effects, anime, and live action production studio. And in 2008, they won an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film for La Maison en Petit Cube. I'm really bad with French, so I'm going to read this more English phonetically. La Maison en Petites Cubes, for anyone who can then transliterate that better. So an archive description from their website that they've since taken down is Robot Communications opened its doors in 1986 as a television commercial production / facilitating agency and graphic design company. Robot has since expanded into producing feature films, animation, web, and mobile contents. No one in the industry would have imagined such diverse expansion at the time of Robot's establishment. Robot has achieved excellence in each of these areas, culminating in the animation production division winning an Academy Award in 2009. That's weird. There's a discrepancy in years there. But anyways, one of the reasons behind Robot's success is you get the idea. So Wiki lists their works, and I'm only going to cover really the notable ones. They also have done some TV, but none of it is on their wiki as it's seemingly very small. So they have mainly focused on movies, ads, and video games. So it's very weird to me that they're making a television show, and I'm wondering if that's going to affect the structure and the production scheduling, but we'll talk more about that soon. In 1996, they made a movie called July 7th, Sunny Day, which I actually don't have any notes on. I think that might just be the first movie they made. In 1997, they made a movie called Parasite Eve, which is not based on the video game Parasite Eve. It's actually based on the same novel the video game is also based on. It looks like lo-fi rather than like hi-fi sci-fi. That sounded ridiculous, but looks like an 80s movie, so it does not look great visuals wise.
Okay.
In 2000, well, yeah, but that was 97, so so much can change. In 2000, they made a movie called Juvenile, in 2000. It's like a live action movie. It's like E.T. with a cute robot instead of an alien, and has good looking practical effects, but really bad CGI. So that's interesting, given that they're going to do a show that I'm assuming is going to be heavily CGI based. But again, 22 years ago, and by the time this comes out, 23, so things can change. So this one I have notes on because this one seems like something I actually want to watch. So maybe there's hope. In 2002, they made a movie called Returner, which is a live-action movie starring Ann Suzuki and Takeshi Kaneshiro, who, a lot of people here will know, famous in both Japan and in China, like specifically Taiwan and beyond. But the plot is like Millie is a soldier from 2084 where humanity is on the verge of extinction because of the Dagra, an alien race. In mankind's final stronghold in Tibet, Millie leaps into a newly built time portal just before the fortress is overrun. The portal sends her to 2002, where her mission is to kill the first Dagra who faked a crash landing and stop him from signaling his invasion fleet. Seems like Terminator, but with terrible CGI, but given the cast, I kind of want to watch this.
Yeah, this sounds like fun.
So here's an interesting one that came out in 2003 called Always Sunset on 3rd Street. It's a well-regarded live-action historical film, and it's not effects-driven. So this is interesting. In 1958, with the impending completion of Tokyo TV's broadcasting tower as a symbol of Japan's escalating post-war economic recovery, rural schoolgirl Mutsuko arrives from the provinces to begin her first job with Suzuki Auto. Oh, Suzuki. What the fuck am I? Why did I? Anyways, initially impressed by meeting company president Norifumi Suzuki, Mutsuko is shocked to discover her workplace is actually a shabby auto repair shop in Tokyo's down-at-heel Yuhi district. The film eventually spawned 2 sequels, Always Zoku Sankrom no Yuhi and Always Sankrom no Yuhi 64. So I think those are just like well-regarded critical darlings that have nothing to do with special effects, which is really weird to think about. So they can make interesting and diverse stuff, which is kind of cool. 2003, they made a live-action comedy called Bayside Shakedown 2, which is the second film based on the popular Bayside Shakedown TV series. known for its unique and humorous depiction of Japanese police force while avoiding the conventions that define most police dramas. The movie was released in the summer of 2003 and is the all-time highest-grossing Japanese live-action movie on domestic screens and earned 17.35 billion yen at the box office.
Ooh, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. So it turns
Yeah.
out they can actually make some cool stuff. Here's where shit gets weird. In 2003, they made a browser video game called Zookeeper, which in the US is mostly known for being on the original DS. So I don't know why they made a video game all of a sudden, and I think it's the only one they made, but it's a very well-regarded video game that has gotten sequels since.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not sure. I don't think any of those people are going to be working on Yu Hakusho, but you know what? If they reenact Game Master shit, it'd be great if they just made a new version of Zookeeper. Okay, another one that I definitely actually want to watch, K20, Legend of the Mask, 2008. Live-action alternate history 1949 starring Takeshi Kaneshiro in a world where Japan avoided World War II by signing a peace treaty. But not everything is good because there's a wide gap between the rich and poor, with aristocrats owning 90% of the wealth. Wow, it's almost like the US.
Wow.
Oh, wait, it gets worse. The right-wing military-industrial complex have, in fact, developed a Tesla-style energy beam with the ability to cause Tunguska-style devastation. It's like the US.
Oh my god.
Here's where things diverge from current-day US politics. However, a mysterious masked thief dubbed K20, short for Kaijin Niju Menso, the Phantom Thief, with 20 faces, steals valuables from the rich and is considered a criminal. It looks like Japanese steampunk Batman plus Zorro and seems kind of sick.
Yeah, it seems very chaotic, but I'm sure like once you actually watch the movie, it'll tie together. Like, you know?
Yeah, I watched the trailer and there was like more comedy in the trailer than I was expecting from that description. I wouldn't characterize it as solely a comedy, but I was like, wait, why are you cracking jokes?
Oh, comedy. I don't know, bro, about that.
Yeah, it could go either way because sometimes with humor, maybe it's like a cultural thing, or maybe it just never seems to fit, or it's like too on the nose.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, maybe someday we'll watch it. Who knows? I mean, some of these sound good, which, makes me interested in the studio's work. But getting closer to the current day, they made in 2010 version of Space Battleship Yamato, which is like a famous anime, but it's a modern adaptation of the anime classic. It has exceptionally bad CG, like the Star Wars prequels, except it's 7 years later. But it's regarded as an okay movie, so don't know what's up with that. In 2014, they made Parasite Part 1, which is a 2014 Japanese science fantasy action horror film directed by Takashi Yamazaki, starring Shota. Yeah, it's basically, Parasite, the manga, which became Parasite the Maxim and whatever. Takashi's a fan of the original manga, so this one might be something we should actually watch to better understand the CG of this company, although it is now 8 years old. But it would be the most analogous to the most weird CG that could come up in Yu Hakusho.
That sounds interesting because, like, I liked the anime a lot, so hopefully they did it good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In 2015, they made Assassination Classroom. The CGI looks bad, but I think it doesn't matter because, like, the CGI is the guy who's CGI in that is cartoony.
And the whole premise of Assassination Classroom, I watched that one too, is crazy. Like, and all the characters have the weirdest character designs. So, it's whatever.
Yeah. You'll probably also have some comments about the next one, which is Chihayafuru Kami no Ku, 2016. It looks beautiful, but does not have special effects because it's a thing about a Japanese traditional card game.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe there were a lot of cool action shots in the manga. I wonder if in the anime, I wonder if they captured that, like, close-ups, But.
So here's one that makes me kind of nervous because we're getting much closer. It is now 2016 and we have Terraform Mars. Did you guys ever read the manga or watch the anime?
I think I watched like one of those summarize the movie YouTube clips. And it was a lot.
Of the anime series or the movie?
Of the movie.
Oh, yeah. This CGI looks bad. And it's by a director whose work I like, Takeshi Miike.
Oh, I did watch this one too. This is wild. I didn't get it.
Yeah, this CGI looks terrible. Like it had no weight to it whatsoever, and it makes me that makes me worried. But again, 6 years away from the current day, so it's possible they've gotten better. But like, and it's also a different director who is more famous for his like non CG shit. So I don't know what to say there. Next one, you'll probably have something to say about. March Comes in Like a Lion 2017. It's a drama, so I didn't really take notes because it's not going to really inform this.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one actually, so I don't know.
Sangatsu no Ryon or whatever, is that what it's called?
I don't know. I'm a little bit out of touch, so
no worries. It's based on an older shoujo, I think, manga.
Yeah.
No worries. Okay, so 2019, they made a movie that I have seen that I have very mixed feelings about called Dragon Quest Your Story, which is the movie version of Dragon Quest V, but they've really changed a lot of the story in a way that I cannot talk about without really spoiling it. I really like the movie about 90% of the I like 90% of the movie and would give 90% of the movie a 90%, and then they really do some stuff. But it's a good looking CG movie, like no live action whatsoever, just CG. So they can do good pure CG pretty well. Like check out some screenshots of it. It doesn't look like Akira Toriyama's art, who does the official art for Dragon Quest, but it's their own style, you know, your story, if you will. But it does look pretty good and crisp in a cartoony style rather than like a style that you would expect from like a Yu Hakusho live action.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, I'm just going to say, but you guys will know much better than me, so I'm not even going to bother. Alice in Borderland.
Yeah.
Tell me about your feelings.
I really liked it in first watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of the production, I thought it was pretty well done in terms of how a lot of the action scenes were choreographed. I think one particular one that stood out in terms of like fight choreography, it's like non-trained fighters, so it's whatever. But how the action was shot from one level to another, basically they're all in like this high-rise apartment trying not to die. I thought the way that the cinematography was shot was really great because it felt very claustrophobic. It felt very tense,
Yeah.
and the shots reflected that.
Yeah.
The actual CGI they did have was like, nah, this is not the greatest. So but it was mostly towards the end. So I don't really have an opinion on that. But
Yeah.
I think overall, as a production, I thought it was really well done, especially for an anime adaptation.
Yeah, I'm a similar opinion. I think in general, CGI for a lot of Asian properties, especially with television, is just not the greatest. And that's not just Japanese. I've seen it as like Korean and Chinese as well. I don't know. I mean, then again, Disney too.
Yeah, that's true.
She-Hulk. So
I don't even know if it's just CGI. I feel it's like the interaction between CGI and live action is where most Japanese productions and like East Asian productions generally fall down. Because again, they made a fucking like CG movie that looks really good, and they've made really good looking live action movies. It just doesn't blend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think it's the budget between a series versus a movie could play a role into it?
Or just like
I'll get into that in my assessment, but I wonder if it's like that the acting techniques that people do to make it easier to direct that interaction have been pioneered in the West and have not really transferred over yet.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, character-wise, in terms of the character development and how you got attached to the characters, I think Alice in Borderland kind of mix. There's some characters I felt attached to, others I'm not. But I think because it's a death game, and in a lot of Japanese death game genre, it's harder to get. They focus less about the characters themselves, more about the high stakes, the games itself. So, I mean, at least, Yu Hakusho, it is about character development, use case character development for at least the first half. So hopefully like the director will be able to work on that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm curious to see if they do multiple directors because, like, from what I've heard so far, that seems like it could be a good approach, but we'll see. My assessment of the studio, though, like, I think I mentioned a little bit before, but it seems like they do well written and faithful dramatic live action.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they do good CG, but the blend of those is not good in their hands. And their lack of live action TV experience, but having done live action movies and animated TV, could be good or bad depending on production timetables and how much money they are getting. Because if they're not getting money to make each episode basically a movie, like if we're not talking fucking Game of Thrones money, like I don't know if a studio that's geared towards making live action movies is really gonna have like a good time with this.
Yeah. I guess time will tell. Like, yeah, because it's like people with experience and studios with experience with movies, it when they do shows, it doesn't work out, and vice versa. And especially since like it's gonna be time, it's gonna be pacing. That's I think the
Mm-hmm.
main worry, because like and I'll bring in the most popular example, a studio that focused on movies and now is transitioning to TV shows, Marvel. The pacing sucks. All their
Yeah.
shows, the buildup is
Yeah,
amazing, and then it pitter patters. Like you're like, what the hell? So
interesting.
I don't know. I just hope they approach it just like follow the anime. Just the pacing in the anime was great, so maybe follow that. I don't know.
Was the pacing in Yu Hakusho
Okay,
great?
maybe
Because like
squeeze.
the Dark Tournament could be a lot shorter if you ask me.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be season 1. I don't. We're not gonna go in the dark tournament with this season
Unless it's a smash hit.
unless it's a smash hit. So maybe like the rule of thumb is the drama is going to be 10 episodes, then use the 2 anime episodes per drama episode. Easy math. So like I should. Oh yeah, but we'll see.
Interesting. So I guess like I'd be curious to hear your assessments slash predictions. And here's something interesting. What
Mm-hmm.
would you say to someone who is shit talking the prospect of this, and what would you say to someone who's maybe overly hyped for this? Like, what is something you would tell to the most like diehard opposed and the most diehard in favor of this? Like, individually, like what would you tell each of them?
I think for someone who's diehard opposed, um, just don't watch it. You don't have to if you're
Damn.
really that against it. If you hate watch things, you're kind of wasting your time. Plus, you're probably going to do the opposite of you want. You want to have the series fail, but by watching it, regardless of your intention, you're going to help it succeed.
I meant more if you wanted to expend the emotional energy to try to convince this person of your position, what would you
Mhm.
say? Not like, hey, real practical advice. Because I think what you've said is entirely valid. But I meant if you, for whatever reason, really needed to convince this person to see the light.
I think as with all like adaptations, it's just a new way of experiencing the new story. There's going to be things that can't really translate through a medium like manga or anime. Like real time emotion is one, because there's only so much that you can animate, especially back then in the 90s where they did a lot, but it can't capture the nuances of the human face that a real person can. So I feel like that is something that you could really look forward to in the anime. I think it would turn depending on like when they set the time of the series. If it's somewhere where it's more ambiguously modern, I think that's also kind of exciting. Um, in many ways, like Yu Hakusho is very much a story of the 90s, but it also has a timeless feel to it. So to see it maybe lean into more where we can imagine it like current day, I feel like is pretty fun. So I say go in with an open mind and just watch it for what it is versus trying to compare too much to what the anime or manga was. That's all I could say.
And for like someone who was like
Die
blindingly
Hard.
positive about it.
I don't
Calm
know
down.
if I've run into anyone who's like that, but I guess a more realistic depiction would be the person who's just like, it's just popcorn, man. Just like, don't worry about it being good. Just let it be like garbage as long as we can stick that down our fucking throat. Cause like, I definitely know some people are like, oh no, it can be garbage that's like enjoyable. And it's just like, no, but I want something based on something I care about to be more than garbage.
Right. And I would probably go lean towards that. Like, this is a story that deserves to be told with respect, not just like another corporate cash cow for Netflix to hopefully gather more subscribers for. And hoping that the talent behind it will care as much about the story as the fans do and produce something that's like worthwhile, something that you can go back to and watch again and again and also feel like you're going through the same emotions and the same joys and sadness that you experience when reading the manga or watching the anime for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. I guess I would say something similar with people who are overly optimistic or just want their bare minimum. Like, yeah, it's like this is a classic favorite that has become actually more popular again due to, the pandemic and the rise in manga being popular in the West. So obviously that in anime in the West, even more so than it was popular in the past. So um we want something quality, and you want like something memorable, and like it's fun to watch a fun live action. Like I love watching live action stuff. So but in that regard, like, but you should also be critical, because like there is some iffy stuff with like from the acting to the directors and stuff. So and then for people who are super negative and just like they just like, this person is not good, this person is not good, this is not what I thought. Well, it's not about you. You need to realize your schema is just your own and isn't actually based in reality. So
Yeah, I'd also like elaborate more than on it's not just for you, because like it's maybe like, hey, maybe actually look at the expectations you have in there, because I notice
right.
a lot of people, we talked a little bit about this before we recorded, have criticisms that if you actually put them together either don't make sense coherently or really just say I don't want Asian actors and are unwilling to say it out loud.
Yeah, because to this day, especially because it's a lot mostly Western people in the West, the US, we're in, I don't know, they're complaining about the cast because it doesn't look to their standards.
They look quote unquote too feminine. It's like, yeah, have you seen what you think of Japanese people generally?
Yeah, they are like, I'm sorry, they don't look like crusty, busted old people like you. They're good looking. It's because they're actors. Like, and, like in general, you should actually watch what the actors are in their work to really gauge whether or not they actually fit the character, which was what we did. And
Yeah.
and it's just like, it kind of shows that a lot of these people have never watched Japanese drama or Japanese live action entertainment at all, because it's
Yeah, the
like,
people who like can't understand that Kuwabara's hair is brown because of like bleaching, like they're like, it
yeah,
has to be red. It's like that. No, that's
no,
literally not what like was implied by like his red hair is like code for like bleach brown hair, guys.
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And I think in general, like a lot of the people are super butthurt about the casting just because they're Asian Japanese actors. Well, you know what? It's a Japanese studio who's producing it. It's in Netflix Japan that's funding it. It's gonna have Japanese actors in the fucking cast. I don't know what you want. I know you think like Sailor Moon Usagi is basically Blair from California with like to Wasp's parents, but it's not true. That's not the case. She's Japanese. So
I'd really quickly add in like, hey, yes, there are like more quote unquote traditionally masculine looking people in East Asia as well.
mhm.
But that's not what Yusuke and Korbar are actually supposed to look like. Because there are those characters in Yu Hakusho. Like, look at Kibano. They
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
look nearly as masculine as Kibano. Kibano is the guy you guys are looking for.
exactly. Like
Right.
Kuwabara at most would be like the quote unquote ugly one, but I mean he's just like
Be
a
the ugly one in a boy band.
yeah. And like Yusuke is really good looking. Like I don't know what
Yes.
people are thinking where he's supposed to be a rough uggo. No. If he with his hair down, he is a pretty boy. So I think people are delusional and they're projecting their insecurities
R-
onto these characters. And I'm sorry,
Right.
is like if you know, if they're like for example, I think a lot of it because there's a lot of dudes saying this is sexism because they can't accept the fact that they don't want to accept good-looking male characters in a shonen y- in a shonen series at that. So
But and that's wild because most shonen characters in manga form are
canonical
drawn to be, pretty good
good
looking, if
looking
not decent looking people.
and they're
And I
acknowledged to be good looking too. So it's
I mean,
like,
I think one thing is like their age in terms of like they're teenagers. They're
Bingo.
going to be looking younger.
mhm,
And yes, all the actors are within their
20s,
their
30s.
20s, even 30s, but they look relatively young. They're going to have
Yeah.
more or less what we consider baby faces. It's because they're playing like teenagers.
Every major shonen character is supposed to have boyish good looks, not
Mhm.
manly good looks. Unless you go further back
Right.
in time, in which case we're talking about Kenshiro and stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's manly good looks, but you get the
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like, honestly, I don't think they're thinking in terms of context of everything. And I think a lot of it is due to I don't know, just like a mix of racism, ignorance, and insecurity. It's just like I know this is not who you wanted, and I in a bare minimum I have sympathy for that because you want the character that you idolized to look like you. But that's not just how life works. And I mean, people of color have gone through that all their lives when they idolize white characters in media. So,
Well, I'm just wondering, like, who do they imagine instead?
yeah, yeah.
Who are
It's
they?
something you like really only have to explain to like I was gonna say white
Mhm,
Westerners, but that's not true because like I also see this in some Spanish language anime groups I'm in, but it's something you only have to explain to Westerners.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, I'm sure in East, I'm sure, honestly, I could be wrong, but in the Japanese boards, maybe they're saying, like, this guy's not good looking enough. I wish he was handsomer. I don't know. So,
They might say that about Kurama.
exactly. Like, it's my opinion. Right? So, there you go.
Yeah. I'm like curious to see like who would they imagine, who would they want to play them
Blake
instead?
Griffin.
Like they'll
Yeah.
but that's just it seems like a meme.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to actually characterize that one because like I think there are some people who say it seriously, but I think they're like maybe like 20% of people who say it, and I think the rest are just kidding.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Joe, what do you think? What?
Um, I think like basically what I would tell people who are like overly negative about this is like, hey, even if this is bad, the ways in which it's bad will be different than anything you've seen so far and will tell you a lot about other people's perspective on Yu Hakusho in a way that is like interesting and different. And like I know that not everyone has like sort of that academic curiosity about things like that, and like what I just said might really turn people off, but I
Mm-hmm.
will say like, hey, don't rope this in with like other forms of like Netflix live action adaptation like Cowboy Bebop, because this is like coming from a Japanese studio
Mm-hmm.
for Japanese tastes, and if it fails in your eyes it will fail in entirely different ways than that did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was gonna say for people who are like just willing to accept trash, I'd be like, fuck you, man. Because like sometimes like things can and should be good. And
Yeah.
like if like we're just willing to accept like crap, then like you're just gonna get crap. And like I'm not here to say that every aspect of the Netflix Cowboy Bebop was crap, because I think there were parts of it that were very well crafted. What I will say though is that the way it cohered was not good and was doomed to failure. Even though the individual parts could be good. And I think that's something that could happen here, but that they're at least trying to make something coherent, but maybe it's a coherence that isn't to our taste because it's very clearly targeting a Japanese audience.
Yeah, for sure. And you make a really good point, like pointing out this isn't like for us, like as Westerners, this is like for the Japanese fans, which I think is hard to reconcile because, with globalization and everyone consume content from any country now, it's like there is a lot of entitlement about like why is this should suit what I do more, what I like more, or like my ideals or my concept of this type of theme or something like that. And that's not the case because cultural differences. So
Yeah, I'd also say that like I won't say that it's not for the West. I will say that I think the bet they're making is that it is for the West by being something authentic to what Japanese people would like, and therefore people liking it for that.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between, how like stories about the guy who made sriracha is like, I'm never gonna fucking put tomato sauce in it because I'm not making this like for white people, but like white people love sriracha. So it's just like, hey, maybe be true to your own culture and like other people will still like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's why anime is so popular because it's not like with Western cartoons. Like, sorry, sorry, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah, and obviously that relationship is more complicated these days. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
I agree with what you're both saying. I think naturally, if they produce something that feels authentic, not only to like the culture that the show and the whole story comes from, but also the story to itself, then naturally it'll have a universal appeal.
Sarah,
It's
you
like
cut
that
off.
one quote, I forgot where it came from, but the more specific something is, the more universal of a feel that it projects.
Interesting. I've not heard that.
I've heard it somewhere. It's like some
It's a good quote.
literary or analytical. Yeah, it's not the exact quote, so don't take
I
it
feel
word
it
from
about
word.
everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah, because it's finding those, even though someone who's watching it may not understand like every cultural nuance or reference, but framing it in a way in a very universal story underneath it, but having those new things to essentially discover, like things about a culture that you never knew about before, and able to kind of bridge those two of like the familiar with the not together, usually makes for very compelling storytelling. So that's probably what they're trying to do with Yu Hakusho. Just have it a very Japanese story, because that's where it started, that had a universal appeal.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the Spirit Hunters. Please hit us up with questions, requests, or just to chat at our Facebook or Twitter at Spirit Hunter Pod. Heads up, check us out at patreon.com/SpiritHunterPod and join our public Discord where we'll be discussing the shit out of Hunter, Yu, and much more. Hopefully soon, the live action. Well, not soon. We have like a fucking year. Speaking of the Discord, if you want to support us another way, you can help us by giving us a written review on Apple Podcasts. Each review gets us surface to tens or hundreds more people. Finally, today's intro and outro themes were made by Rifty Beat and Lightest De Leon, respectively. Check them out on YouTube. Also, big shout out to our editor, Tommy. Thanks to him, the rest of the crew can focus on doing research and talking Togashi. See y'all on the other side.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, fuck. Hit the Roomba again.
Oh, are you okay?
Tommy, keep that in.